want to say thank you to R.J. Snell for that beautiful introduction, and to everyone at Agora and Eastern who were involved in sponsoring my visit today. It's really a privilege to be here and to participate in this elevated conversation, which is so unusual, unfortunately, in American culture today. You heard a little bit about me in this introduction, but you did not hear the most salient fact of my current life, which is that in addition to being a novelist and a scholar, I am also the mother of a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So it's really, really rare that anyone in my house ever listens to me. So I want to thank you in advance, not only for coming out this evening, but for listening to what I have to say, because this is something I never experience at home. I want to speak with you tonight about technology and memory and history, but in the context of the larger conversation at Agora about the common good, I'm really going to talk about meaning-making. And because I'm a novelist and a literary scholar, I'm going to begin with a much more fundamental question that I think gets to the heart of how we understand both our past and our future. And the question is, what is a story? This sounds like a simple question, or at least it may sound like a simple question to those of you who haven't tried to write a novel. But it really isn't, because a story is much more than a sequence of events. It's a sequence of events that's worth retelling, and in fact, it's even more than that. The British novelist E.M. Forster has a book called Aspects of the Novel, where he talks about the art of fiction. And in that book, he gives the following example of what constitutes a plot in a work of fiction. And this is his example. He says, the sentence, "the king died, then the queen died," doesn't have a plot. It's just a sequence of events. But the sentence, "the king died, then the queen died of grief," has a plot. Now, he then goes on to say that the reason that the second sentence has a plot is because there is a causative connection between the two events. One event led to cause the other. But I would like to challenge that, because if you think about that sentence for more than 30 seconds, it doesn't make any sense as a causative connection between two events, because what does it mean to die of grief? Is there a very elaborately articulated suicide note on the part of the queen, not mentioned in our sentence plot? Is there some indication that the grief is something that the coroner put on the death certificate? Probably not. And what I want to suggest is that it's not that there's a causative connection between those two events. It's rather that the beliefs of the storyteller lead him or her to impose a causative connection on those two events. In other words, you couldn't even say the king died and then the queen died of grief unless you believed, at least while you're saying it, that one person could mean so much to the other that she couldn't live without him. The only thing that makes that story possible is the idea of a belief. The belief is what creates the plot. I think this is enormously important for how we think about the past, because what it essentially means is that there are no stories in real life. There are only sequences of events. And the meaning of these events, therefore, is only revealed by the way that we curate those memories of things past and turn them into stories. I'm giving this talk this evening not because I am an expert on technology or memory or any of the things that I'm supposed to be talking about tonight, but rather because I made up a story about technology and memory and all the things that I'm supposed to talk about tonight.